You are watching episode 103 of the Unnecessary Nonsense podcast. For those of you in the audio version, you may be thinking 102 was only a day or two ago. Yes, that's because Carlos forgot to upload it. But 103 will probably come a day or two later. So you will be able to transport to the past and then the future. Slash the present slash still kind of the past. So with time traveling out of the way, we'll talk about a handful of things here, and then we'll get out of here and we'll come back next week. So, ready for a truncated Sunday version, Dave?
You know it.
Unnecessary Nonsense Podcast. Hit the music. Yes. I'm Carlos. That's Dave. How's it going, Dave?
Going all right. Going all right. Been a bit of a chaotic day and coming back from the cottage, unpacking, trying to transition a toddler from cottage time to car time to Nana and Papa time to car time to home time. But he's asleep, so all is well.
Yes, yes. Dave undertaking the traditional Canadian, we have more money than we know what to do with tradition of going to another house somewhere else, pretending that we need to get away from all the stresses of day-to-day life when we already live in the middle of nowhere to even more in the middle of nowhere so we can come back to the middle of nowhere.
Something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we already established you live in the third world, so it's not like, oh yeah, we're so close to civilization. You're not in downtown Toronto, Dave.
It's true. Neither are you, though, Carlos.
I've never claimed otherwise. I live in the suburbs. It's like, I don't need to get away from it. It's like, I'm already away.
Speaking of in the middle of nowhere, I found out today, this can transcend to the next story I want to tell you, but I picked up the mail, right? So very little mail came in last week, but I guess that's probably because Canada Day, and also because maybe Friday they didn't deliver mail, even though it wasn't a holiday. But the point is, I found out that the closest Mandarin does deliver here, but it's $2 extra than their regular delivery charge because we're in a shaded area, because maps.
Are you sure you didn't mean shady area?
Maybe I did.
It's like, yeah, shaded. It's shaded, Dave. Shaded.
And here's another thing I love about the mail, Carlos. All right, so I got an envelope in the mail today, and I see on it there's a U.S. stamp. So I'm right before I pull it out of the mailbox. So I'm pretty sure this is something that I sent away to get mailed back to me. All right, so I and it's always kind of cool. You know how you get mail from the States sometimes. So you know how there's that.
I can be able to say quite a bit, actually. Yeah. Yes.
So you know how there's a postmark usually, right, where it says like where it was mailed from.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. This envelope is blank. There's literally just the stamp is not canceled. There's no postmark, and there's some line, but there are it's gone through machine because there's lines at the bottom on one side and lines at the bottom on the other side, but apparently nothing. The top part of the machine wasn't working or whatever, right? So it's like, where was this? Where is this from? And ready, Carlos? This is what was in the mail.
Kurt Angle, your Olympic hero, whose body is a weird dysmorphia. What happened to his rib cage? What did you do? He's been through enough injuries. Hasn't he suffered enough?
He's fine.
Like, he literally showed it for like half a second. I'm like, what the hell happened to his ribs?
So that's what the drawing looked like on I can only draw what I see, Carlos. So you're gonna have to blame the original for not having ribs.
I guess so. We're gonna need to see this. We're gonna need to see a Salvador Dali rendition of the original photograph.
Let me see if I can find it for you. I'll show it to you after. But I do like this. It's a nice signature.
Oh no, Kurt Angle knows what he's doing. Like, he is a former Olympic champion, and then obviously he became very famous for wrestling and doing all that. But yeah, like he's been in the public eye long enough. I suspect his signature should be on point at this stage. And
it is, I think.
For
and
sure.
I got the HOF part of it too, which is
cool. Well, there you go. Bonus. You didn't ask for any inscription or anything, just for a signature.
No, I just said, can you sign this and send it in?
That's too bad. I would have said just include. It's true. It's damn true.
I don't know. I was going to include you suck, but
he might inscribe that too. Actually, it wouldn't shock me if people make that request, especially at a lot of the signings and stuff. Both are equally plausible to me.
It's probably true, actually.
Yeah, like that became the thing. At that point, you have to embrace it because it became part of his theme song unofficially.
Yeah, I also wonder, the composer who wrote the theme song, if they ever envisioned that being part of it.
Well, I could be wrong, but I believe that theme song was actually originally used for a different wrestler. I believe it was. Let me just see. Kurt Angle theme song. I think it was used by the Patriot. Yeah.
Oh, it might have been. I don't
Yeah,
know.
theme song. Let me just see. Previous wrestler. And this might actually be this might actually play into it because I know I'm pretty sure that song was reused. Da, 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 da. Metal is the theme song for Kurt Angle. The song references, yeah. I was pretty sure. Yeah, I used a recycled theme song. And let me see here. I have to take a look. But I'm pretty sure at the very minimum. Yeah, here we go. The Patriot was the first to use the theme metal, which was popularized by Kurt Angle. I thought so.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the Patriot is the one because he was a very patriotic character named the Patriot, and I believe he passed away recently. So actually, ironic that you bring that up. So yeah, he I think he passed away recently, and yeah, it was a guy named the Patriot who came out, and I believe that theme song that people know of, dun dun dun, that was originally the Patriot, and then Kurt Angle popularized it, and since he was a bad guy, eventually
Yeah,
became
he
the
died
essential.
June 30th.
Yeah, it wasn't long ago. Yeah, exactly. So
Literally,
yeah,
it was like 4 days ago.
yep, exactly. Yeah, so that's why I say it was interesting it came up.
59.
Which isn't horrific by wrestling standards. Still, obviously young. You know, we're not going to call that to old age. A lot of these wrestlers don't live very long, so it's one of those things.
No, I was listening to an episode of the Steve Austin show, and he was saying that his goal, like what he'd like to do is, he's like, if I can live to be 65, that's what he wants.
Yep. Considering how jacked up his neck was and different injuries he sustained throughout his career, and probably steroids that he did at different times and stuff, not like the whole way through, but at different time periods. I think that's a reasonable goal. I think he keeps himself in reasonable shape these days. As long as he's trying to do that, I think he's giving himself a shot. You have to kind of balance out. You can live your life, but just balance it out a little bit because it was a hard life when they're wrestling.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a very hard life, and he was right at the apex. He was at the top of the mountain, and when he was there, they were going like crazy.
Yeah, they said I read somewhere, I can't remember where. I'd like to source it, but I can't. That one wrestling match is the equivalent of playing a game of football at offensive line
Probably, yeah.
for your body.
The kind of contact you can get, yeah.
Right? And you think, okay, football players, if you're thinking American football, right, you play 16 games. I know there's preseason and there's practicing, but 16 games a year.
Yep.
And wrestlers, notoriously did 300 dates a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Sometimes multiple matches a night.
Matches in a day, yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of these guys, their shelf life was shortened by the amount. The term used a lot in the industry is they talk about their bump card, because every time you take one of those hits or bounce off the mat or do this, it's a bump. But and they say your body only has a certain amount of times you can do something like that, but you don't know. So there are some people out there that can do like 1 million of them, and then they finish their career and seemingly nothing wrong. But then other people are like, they just take one wrong one and then they're paralyzed, or or their back is jacked up for the rest of their life or something.
Yeah, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, and you have no idea. Like, you genuinely, it's like anything else. You don't know until you experience it for yourself. And ideally, you don't want to get to whatever your limit is, but you also don't know what your limit is. So you're like just taking every precaution you can and trying to be careful. But at the same time, if you're going to do your job, then you're taking that risk every single time out.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the way it goes. So there you go. A little wrestling trivia and a little cautionary tale. Don't try this at home, kids. But other than that, quick kind of aside. I was doing a lot of live streams and stuff this week. There was a lot of sports card news. I won't regale you guys to too much of that today. We can talk about that more next week. But yeah, definitely a lot going on in there. Definitely was having some fun putting together some different packages. We did have a little bit of fun though with the last episode, where we actually had it pretty well programmed, in the sense that we invited a guest, a collector, over to share some research that he had done on the 1955-56 Parkhurst set. Long story short, that set came out, but at the same time there was a Quaker Oats set that came out that was also identical to the Parkhurst set. The difference being that the backs were green, and obviously they were released in Quaker Oats boxes, distributed that way at that time. What was interesting though is that they were redeemable things, so that you would collect the cards, but if you collected a full team or you collected the full set, you could claim these prizes. So what would happen is you'd send in the cards to claim the prize, which made these cards extensively rare, very rare in some cases. But one part of the research was they were trying to figure out, okay, it's very clear that not a lot of people redeemed these. A lot of people tried to redeem them, but not a lot of people were successful in being able to build a lot of these sets. Why? And the answer was that certain ones were super duper short printed, like super short printed. And they were trying to figure out, like, okay, so how did they manage that? Did they like print them separately, or what did they do? So the guy, over the last year or so during pandemic, they decided to take this on as his project. He's been collecting the set for 15 years, so he's very familiar with it. But he decided to go like, okay, I really want to know why. Let me start doing some research. So he started doing some research, looking at auctions and trying to look up everywhere he can. And he managed to painstakingly reconstruct digitally the printing sheet, what he believes the printing sheet looked like, based on different markings and the way these cards were cut. So he actually rebuilt. Cool. Yeah, he managed to rebuild it. So we actually talked about it in a segment on the live stream, and I've separated it out into its own video. It's actually fascinating history. I'll send you the link. It might actually be, you might be interested in just learning how weird it was. We made it into its own standalone video so people could see it separately. But he basically reconstructed this sheet so that he could try to figure out, okay, well, as it turns out, according to his theory, based on the reconstruction he did, the really short printed cards were in the bottom corner. So that would have made it easier for the Quaker Oats guys to separate them out and leave them separate and do a single printing, therefore. So basically, they intentionally held back the cards to make it really hard to claim the prize.
Right.
But apparently, there were more shenanigans than that, because they were required at the time to reveal the list of the winners. They didn't have to say who won what, but they had to show a list of winners to show that you're actually giving out prizes, to make sure you're actually legitimately giving out prizes. Well, as it turns out, for the first run through, they did the research and discovered that almost all the winners were in Peterborough. The Quaker Oats plan was in Peterborough.
Interesting.
So it's like, shenanigans, you say? Perhaps.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting history. It's fascinating. Obviously, a very different time period, but it did lead into kind of a fun little discussion where, as it turned out, the original, the set itself was distributed into, and the top prize, if you could complete the full set. Now, here's the funny thing. In today's world, if you have a complete set of Quaker Oats, you probably got like a 6-figure set, because it's super rare. It's super hard to put together. Some of the cards are extremely valuable by themselves, let alone a completed set, which is would be a scarcity or rarity today. But the grand prize, if you got them all, completed the set, and you sent it in, and by the way, if you send it in, you don't get the cards back. They destroyed the cards. Hence why they're so rare. So what happened is your big prize was a bicycle. And it gave me a bit of an excuse to give a little story. So quickly, I'll give you this story. So it was a fascinating video, and I'll send you, Dave, the link just so you can check it out for yourself. And I'll include a link in the description just for fun. Why not? So if people want to check it out, it's fascinating. If you're interested in hockey cards, hockey history, weird shenanigans that these companies did sometimes with giveaways and prizes and stuff like that. So if you're interested in any of that, the guy did some great research, and I commend him for it. And we were happy to showcase some of the research he had done, because
that's pretty cool.
He did painstakingly. So respect for that. But it did lead me into giving a quick bicycle story. So Dave, let me give you Carlos's bicycle story.
All right.
Once upon a time, Carlos won a bicycle back in elementary school, and he won it in the most Carlos way possible. So allow me to share how Carlos won a bicycle in elementary school. So back in those days, they had you know, those like candy bar sales drives and stuff like that, where they would do stuff like that. I don't know if they had it in your school, but they would do this, thing where different classes would, sell candy bars and stuff, and whoever sold the most, and there would be prizes and stuff like that. Does any of that ring a bell? Did you guys do anything similar?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So in elementary school, we had one of those. And what they decided to do is they said, okay, so you sell candy bars, and the more candy bars you sell, the more boxes of them you sell, you get tickets to this draw for these prizes. And they had a variety of different prizes.
Yeah.
And one of the grand prizes was a bicycle. Now, given that it's me, I don't give a shit about any of that. But basically it's one of those situations where, like, yeah, it's voluntary, but at the same time, like, so you are selling some chocolate bars, right? You are, right? Basically, they're going to keep bothering you.
Yeah.
So I said, fine, whatever. So at that time I said, look, I don't want to deal with this shit. Participating is against my religion. Like, I'm out. But they were bugging me about it, and I said, okay, fine, let me see what I can do. So I had a chat with Carlos Senior, and Carlos Senior was like, look, I can give you a hand, just so if we just need to get through one box, I'll take a couple, and then I'll go around the neighborhood and we'll just sell them off. So Carlos Senior went and just visited, because he likes talking to people anyway. So while he walked around, he goes, hey, you want to take a couple of these? He sold out the box within like an hour. So
nice.
Done. Key to the story. What did I do? Nothing. Not a damn thing. But box sold. I didn't ask for a second box. Whatever. We're done. I have met my minimum obligation. We're finished with this.
Okay.
That entitled me to one ticket. Now, here's the deal. At that time, a ticket is a ticket. You were put into a general draw, and they would draw for each prize. Now, there were some kids who went and sold dozens and hundreds of these boxes. And it's just put into a tumbler. It's just spun around, spun around. When they get to the bicycle one, they spin around, a bunch of prizes have been handed out and blah, blah, blah. So they get to the bicycle one. And what they decided to do is they drew it, found the name, and then they had like folks in the gymnasium, and they'd be like, okay, so the winner is not in this section. You guys can sit down. The winner is not in this row. You can sit down. So they would narrow it down. And I'm still standing there, and I'm like, I only have one ticket. Like, a bunch of these guys I know have like dozens or 100 tickets or whatever crazy thing they ended up selling because they went crazy on it. So then sitting there, and then it's like, okay, so the winner is Carlos. And they all stare at me with a death stare because they knew I hadn't done shit. And I had the minimum amount required for one ticket. And I won the stupid bike.
That's amazing.
After that, the Carlos rules was instituted, where there was a minimum threshold of chocolate bars that must be sold in order to qualify for a decent prize. So I have a clause. I have a clause that was instituted henceforth. And that was the story of how Carlos got a bicycle. And the proper lesson here, kids, is working hard is for morons. That's the lesson, I think. I think that's the lesson.
I like it.
And that is how we established that the lesson, the tale of slacking is, this is the path to enlightenment.
I agree.
I just thought I would share that. That's the story of how Carlos won a bicycle.
Unbelievable.
It always works, Dave. It always works. Even back then. Continuing to this day. But anyway, moving on. Okay, so good. So let's quickly chat about a couple of things here. We'll keep it straightforward today. We'll keep it lean. Let's quickly do the hockeys. So explain to me, based on your observations, what is the failure of this team of yours? What's the deal, man?
The failure is kind of twofold. But the basic failure, Tampa Bay is just better. They're a better team.
And so are you suggesting that having like $100 million worth of players where you're not supposed to is possibly increasing their probabilities?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I thought going into it that, it would be a series, right? I thought Montreal would win, actually, as I said on the podcast. But did I think it was possible that Tampa would? Of course, because Tampa's a good team. But I never thought that Montreal wouldn't be competitive. And they haven't been competitive, right? Yes, they scored 3 goals on Friday, but they still lost by 2. So I don't really, I see them getting swept. And the other thing is Carey Price has not played very well, right? He has not played to an outstanding level that he has needed to play based on the way everything's going. He's been vastly outplayed by Vasilevsky. And it's showing, and basically every facet. I mean, Montreal has had some good things. Their penalty kill has still been doing pretty solidly, right? Their power play is doing okay. They basically outplayed Tampa Bay in Game 2, and they still lost, but they still lost 3-1. Or was it 4-1? I can't remember. 5-1. Maybe it was 5-1, right? But the thing was, Tampa Bay scored first, and Montreal answered, and the Montreal was, playing really, really well, and then Tampa Bay scored a goal with 0.3 seconds left in the second period, and that was kind of all she wrote. Right? So my take on this series is Tampa Bay is a better team. They're playing like they're a better team, and Montreal is not playing at anywhere near the level of which they need to play to compete with this team in terms of the stats that actually matter. Right? Are they shooting the puck well? Yeah. In terms of shots, are they even or better or that? Yep. Are they hitting well? Laying out the checks stuff. Absolutely. They're okay with the face-offs, although Tampa Bay's have been winning more of them. But the most important thing is pucks in the net, and Tampa Bay is doing that at an elite level, whereas Montreal is barely doing that at a junior A level.
A reasonable assessment, Dave. A sober assessment. So in accordance, the discussion for me in my house became a matter of what form of hedge bet should I do on this? Because it appears that the Montreal poutine eaters have run out of poutine. They may have run out of cheese curds or whatever happened. Who knows? Who knows?
Whatever key ingredient they need, right?
There's something missing. There's something missing. The point
Absolutely.
So the point is, what scenarios could I do? So you can't play every scenario because mathematically you can't win that way. But I said to myself, what scenario does that? So here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Montreal to at least win a game. I need them to at least scrape by and win a game. That's it. Win a game, I win. Because I decided to go with a series result as a hedge bet. If Tampa Bay wins 4 games to 1, I win. If Tampa Bay wins 4 games to 2, I win. If Montreal wins, I win. If it goes to but if it's a sweep or 4 or 7 game series that Tampa wins, well then I can't pick every single outcome, otherwise mathematically it won't work. So I've left myself with that. I said, okay, well, let's see. If it's a sweep, well, then nothing can be done. The Tampa Bay dynasty is on. Tampa Bay is the greatest sports city in the world. They're Boston 2.0 with better weather. We're done.
Can we just stop with it? Like, that's the thing, right? The thing that's going to hurt most about this, which I really feel this point is inevitable, was Tampa Bay winning, is the fact that it's Tampa Bay. Like, can we just stop with the Tampa? Tampa Bay, Tampa, whatever. I hate your football team. I hate your hockey team. I can't hate your baseball team because you're not actually in Tampa, and there's a lot of other factors that go in there, like the fact that you probably should move the team back to Montreal, even though it wasn't that team that moved in the first place.
I was about to say, how are you going to move them back to Montreal again?
Don't worry. See, I knew that I was saying, right? All those
you want your team back in Montreal because then you'd have Juan Soto in Montreal.
I would take Juan Soto in Montreal. But the point is, and then you have, and you fucked over the Raptors this year too, because the Raptors played in Tampa this year. And I don't blame the pandemic. I blame the fact that they played in Tampa. So therefore, enough with the goddamn Tampa Bay, Carlos. That's what I'm saying. Fuck this team. Fuck this city. Let's move on to something more important. Somebody else needs to win. Thank God they don't have an MLS team.
I got nothing, man. It's like y'all got the opportunity, like 3 games to nothing. It's like I think that's curtains, but it's like I think it's not unreasonable for your team to put up a little bit of a fight. That'd be nice, you know. How about win a game? Let's win a game.
But see, the problem is, Carlos, did you watch Game 2?
I didn't get a chance to watch. I watched a little bit of Game 3.
So they put up a hell of a fight in Game 2, and they still got smoked.
Well, Game 2. So hold on, let me get my sequencing right here, because Game 3 was 6-3. Game 3 was 6-3.
Yeah.
Now Game 2 was on Wednesday. Wednesday was 3-1. 5-1 was Game 1. 5-1 was the one we watched a little bit of.
Yes.
Yeah. So 3-1 isn't, 3-1's not exactly getting smoked. It's definitely not winning.
No, but if you watch the game, what I'm saying, the problem is if you watch that game, irrespective of the 4 goals, right? So if you just watched hockey where nobody scored in that game, and then I said to you, okay, Carlos, who won this game? You would say Montreal because of the way they played. And that's not what happened, right? And that's the thing, is that, you want to win a game, you want to absolutely, but you have to somehow do what it takes to win the game. Montreal did, and they still lost, right? That effort and the way they played in Game 2 was the way they've played against Toronto in the games they've won, against Winnipeg, and against Vegas, right? And they won all those series. And they're not winning this one, and they're probably not going to win this one. I think that's a pretty safe bet. But obviously it's not official until it's actually done.
Well, as far as the series is concerned, I wouldn't be counting on it.
No, but this is the thing. I think that the issue here really is that Montreal's best is not good enough to beat Tampa Bay's not bad, obviously not best, but even if Tampa Bay plays okay, Montreal's best is still not good enough.
It's a fair point. But you see, now that leaves us 2/3 of the way to the Tampa Bay three-peat dynasty. The dynasty of dynasties. All Tampa Bay all day long. Forever.
I'm just gonna turn off North American sports, except the NBA. Because yes, you fucked over the Raptors, Tampa Bay, but you can't actually win a championship. Therefore, I will still pay attention to the NBA. Carlos, would you like to talk about the NBA?
Oh yes. Well, now we have the segue. Absolutely. All right. So I like this final, just because it's random. I love it because it's random. I love it, and by the way, I also love it because Milwaukee got there without Giannis for the last couple of games, which is interesting. That's interesting. Question mark.
And Trae Young was hurt, I think, in one of those games. He was out one of those games.
In one of those games that Milwaukee won, Trae Young was hurt as well.
But he did come back for game 6.
Yeah, he wasn't quite himself, but that was their best shot. Their best shot was having it, but he wasn't really able to help them very much at that point, which is a shame. I would say this NBA playoffs has been marred by a lot of injuries, tons of injuries to a lot of star players. Because it hasn't been the middling guys. It's been a lot of star players who have gone down with various ailments and injuries and all kinds of stuff going on. But interesting story because you've got Chris Paul going to his first NBA final. He is in the latter stages of his career at this point, so he won't get that many more opportunities. This is obviously his best opportunity. But we've got an interesting scenario because now, guaranteed, what we're going to have Milwaukee winning its first NBA championship in over 40 years. Because we're talking 1971. We're talking the Lou Alcindor / Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Milwaukee with the big O, Oscar Robertson. You got that team, and then you got this team in 2021. Or, alternatively, the very first championship for Phoenix. The Phoenix Suns, which is interesting. Compelling.
Right? Because 93, right, was the last
93
time
was when they got there with Charles Barkley, Yep. And they had a reasonable shot. That was a good team, too.
It was a great team.
Yeah.
But they were up against the Bulls juggernaut.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I like this final, and I will watch. I don't know if I will watch every game, but I will watch, a considerable amount of this series because I'm interested in what's happening and interested in the series as a whole. Right? Yep. Because it's an interesting matchup. It's a good, I would say, matchup, and I think honestly, if I had to handicap it right now, I would probably put Milwaukee ahead. Phoenix ahead. I think their team is better overall, and the way they've been playing. I also think they're closer to healthier.
They're also closer.
Well, that too, right? Because we don't know, right? Like I think Giannis will play in this series, but I doubt Giannis will ever be 100% in this series.
Yeah, which is big. It's again it's been kind of the secret of this series, unfortunately, that at this stage it's become attrition. It's whoever gets the furthest along.
That's
really
for sure.
This week.
For sure. And the other thing the thing I like about it from like a me watching standpoint, which who cares, right? But is either one of Giannis is going to win, which I think is cool and good for him. And if they do win, good on him for staying with Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. Right? That was something obviously that was talked about. He couldn't win or he wasn't going to win in Milwaukee and da-da-da-da. And now here we go. Right? The other one is Chris Paul on Phoenix could win a championship. Right? One of them will win a championship, and that's pretty cool for both of those players. It really sucks for the guy who doesn't win it. Mm-hmm. But for both of those players, that's something pretty special.
No, for sure. I would say we talked about this before. I'm a big fan of if I don't have a horse in the race, and this is a situation where I definitely don't. I love when there are interesting storylines, and it's a situation where like I'm good with whoever wins. There's really no downside for me in either scenario because it's you get an interesting story out of it either way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's what you want, right? As a sports fan, as the neutral.
Yeah.
Right? You want something interesting that is watchable, that's compelling, and gives you a reason to tune in when your team's not in it.
That's exactly right. And I think from that perspective, I think this is going to be... I usually watch a little bit of the NBA Finals, generally a couple of games here and there. I probably check out a little bit more of it than usual, just because there is some intrigue. And I think that's kind of interesting. I think that's quite good.
For sure. For sure. I think this is a great series for those reasons.
Yeah. So I'm happy about that, and I think that's solid, and that'll be good. If I was going to have a rooting interest, it's tricky because I think having the guy who's the veteran who is taking his last shot at glory, the Chris Paul story is a good one. I like that. But I think Giannis needs it because they've had some blowups. If he can come back, play a reasonable amount, be a factor, and actually be a big contributor towards that, I think that would be really big for a young guy.
It's also very much a legacy-defining moment as well.
Yeah, it gives it, because this is an opportunity. Because this year just fell into place for both these teams where it's like, look, the Red Sea parted for you. You're not gonna get, we won't call it easy because there was attrition obviously along the way, but this is the easiest path for both teams to the finals because stuff happened all the way along the way to every team all these teams had to face.
Yeah.
Stuff happened because we run this back 100 to more times. We probably don't get this matchup again. So it's kind of interesting from that perspective. So I think that's fair. I think that's good. We'll definitely have a chance to talk some more about it. I think since we'll be paying a little bit better attention to it, we can definitely discuss it some more next week. So question for you. I know you guys were probably on the road. Did you catch any of AEW Dynamite?
I did not, unfortunately. I did. It was one of those things where I can't remember what was going on that night, but it was just not. Well, there was a hockey game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hockey game, and I was away, and the TV that we had down there did not have a PVR. So I watched the hockey, although realistic. I mean, it was a good game, the hockey game. That was game 2, but in retrospect, I kind of wish I'd watched Dynamite.
Well, I'll make a recommendation to you and anybody else because we do talk a little wrestling here from there. 2 things. Number 1, I think what you got for TV, you got Bell still or? Yeah. You can use your login, your Bell login.
Yeah, I can go on TSN and catch it on demand.
I recommend at least catching the main event.
What was the main event in this one?
It was MJF versus Sammy Guevara. Excellent match especially for a television match. It was pay-per-view quality. It was an excellent match. So definitely a worthy rewatch, and with the ability to play it back that way, I would do that.
All right, I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, capitalize on that. At least for a couple of other good matches along the way, I will say as well. To be honest with you, I was pleased. I'll quickly touch on this. Well, 2 things quickly. I'll touch on that the Team Taz, potential disintegration storyline continues. Brian Cage is going to be taking on Ricky Starks for the FTW Championship. So, they're doing the thing where it's like, yeah, family members sometimes have to fight. So this could be the potential thing where there's a break off between these guys, which is a storyline that's been playing out. So to AEW's credit, they've been slowly chipping away at the storyline, and it's developed organically to the point that now it's logical that, all the people are frustrated and go like, look, just fight and let's get this over with, whatever. Most likely the group will pick sides, probably with Ricky Starks, and then basically boot out Brian Cage. That's my guess. Probably the way it goes down, and Brian Cage goes off on his own and does his own thing. So that can be interesting. So that's at least playing out. They're starting to develop a possibility. They're teasing the possibility of a Hangman Adam Page, Kenny Omega championship program, which could be interesting. They've got some background to play off of that because they were tag team partners for a while there and had the tag team championships. So they've got a storyline to draw back from with those guys as well, which is good. So some interesting storylines there. The Pinnacle versus the Inner Circle. That storyline continues as well. Obviously, the main event was part of that too. And I will say this because we talked about it already previously. The tag team match with Britt Baker and Rebel versus Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero. They got out of it as with the least amount of disastrousness. It maybe be the way I try to present it, because I was like, this is stupid. Now they didn't do what I thought they would do. Is I thought it was just them walking into a trap, but it still turned out a bit weird. Let's put it this way: the match result was the best I could have asked for under the circumstances. The champion won. The champion, Britt Baker submitted Vicky Guerrero, submitted Vicky Guerrero, which. Vicky Guerrero loses nothing. She's not a regular competitor. And Britt Baker submitted her quickly and did it in a very smart and clever way. But I will say, though, it was still a weird dynamic because it's like heel team versus heel team. And I'm like, and for most of it, Britt Baker was like acting like a cowardly heel, running away, avoiding Nyla Rose. But at the same time, I'm like, it's still heel on heel. It's still a very bizarre way. So it's like, are you trying to make Britt Baker the face? But then she's like a cowardly heel. And I'm like, we got a lot of wires crossed, guys. Like, I'm real confused about what we're trying to sell here. I don't understand the storyline. And Britt Baker just won this championship. She should be strong for the first couple defenses against whoever you put her.
Absolutely.
Just feed her somebody that she can beat and have an interesting match with and then beat. She should be a strong champion going into a couple defenses here. My opinion. She's got so much momentum. Let her ride the momentum for a bit. And then Nyla Rose attacked her afterwards and threw her through a table. So, like, this is going to continue. Which is still a very bizarre program to run out of the blocks with her just getting the championship. I don't understand it. I still don't get it. Unfortunately, there was a sequence there where Rebel went and broke up a pin, and apparently dislocated her kneecap or something. Like actually got completely injured on it to the point that Nyla Rose was going to grab her and do something, and you could kind of tell that she basically like said something, and then Nyla Rose kind of just dragged her to the side so that the medical staff could come and give her a hand.
Yeah.
So they were able to finish the match. So they actually did a good job kind of covering it up. I will say, good job, all things considered. But then she got injured and it kind of had to be carted off. And then basically Britt Baker was fighting them 2-on-1. So that's when she got the end of the match and managed to win the match. But it's like, it's a bizarre storyline, which only becomes more bizarre because now probably you got Rebel injured. Even if she comes out, she was doing the gimmick with the crutch. She might need the crutch now, at least for a while. So it's like, the whole thing's weird. The point is, I don't understand. This entire storyline is bizarre to me. I don't get it. I don't see what the objective is. I don't see what our destination is. I'm confused.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, so that's that. And the last point I'll make for this show was Andrade will be doing a match on the next week's show. So that should be good. He's a great wrestler, so that should be very fun. And he's going to be taking on Matt Sydal, who is a great high flyer and a great wrestler in his own right. So you got Andrade, who's great, with Matt Sydal, who's great. I think it'll be a fun match. And I believe they're back on the road next week. So they're going to be in Miami. So they're going to have potentially a hot crowd in Miami. They got their special Road Rager. So that's going to be their first show back in front of a live crowd outside of Jacksonville.
Which will be interesting.
Yes. So that could be, I suspect that crowd will be hot. There's a good chance that crowd will be super hot. And if they put on some good matches, which you got Andrade on the show, you got him and Matt Sydal, they could tear the house down if they really are
for
the
sure.
right mindset to do. So I think that'll be fun. So there's some potentially good matches going into next week's show. Some good stuff. So there you go. Some stuff to look forward to. Good stuff. Cool. I think that's good. Anything else of interest? Anything else catch your eye? I know you guys were off and on and about, but anything else cool?
In terms of the sports world, I can't say really no, not in terms of the sports world. And in terms of sort of anything else, it's interesting to see how busy a place can become. We're in Long Point. That's where the cottage is, right, which is on Lake Erie. Yep. And it's an interesting little place because it's one of I can't remember if it's like where on the scale but it's one of the most biodiverse places in the entire world.
Okay. Right.
But it also has this little cottage community and provincial park, right? And then there's about half of the actual point that is uninhabited, other than wildlife. And it's funny because when you stay there and you have a cottage there, you obviously there the whole day. You get to see it. It almost feels like you live in a place that's, I mean, it is highly touristic, but a little glimpse into what it might be like if you lived in Venice, or you lived in one of these places where people just come in during the day and it gets insane. And then, by dinner time, everyone's cleared out and you're like, where did all the people go? Right. It's kind of almost an eerie feeling when you're out walking at night and everybody's gone and you're like, oh yeah. Right. They just come down for the day and that's what they do.
Interesting.
Right. But I mean, the idea is that it's obviously not totally comparable because it's obviously different places and whatnot. But one of the things that some of the tour guides and some of the European travel shows that I pay attention to talk about is, some of these places, spend the night there, right? Don't just do the day trip because you really get to see a place differently when the tourist crowds aren't there. Mm-hmm. Right. Which I think is kind of cool.
No, that's fair. And what place was this again?
Long Point.
So what you're saying is our takeaway is Long Point is not Venice.
Correct. It is not Venice. We
can say that definitively, I think. I think that's the conclusion we draw from your story.
Something like that.
I always find stuff like that. I always find stuff like that kind of funny. It's like, yes, a tourist trap. Yes, people don't stay. It's like, it's quiet, too quiet. It's like, yes, it is. It is what it is. It works out. It makes sense. Like I said, I've never. I've always found the whole concept of the whole cottage thing interesting. You really have to be into the outdoors, though. I think that has to be your deal for it to be interesting.
It's for sure. Because if you're just going to spend all your time inside, right? What the hell is the difference? Right? Like there really is no difference, right? But there is a difference between I can get up and walk across the road to the beach, or I have beachfront property, right? That is a difference. than
Oh,
it is
Dave, why do
moving
you
here.
say so? We can import you a big old pile of sand. Just put it out in front of your driveway. It's like, Dave, we got you. It's like, we brought the piece to you. That's a big pile of sand. It's like, same diff. Put a big sandcastle right
Yeah,
there.
something like that, right? Like for sure, that's not the way it's normally going to go down. But yeah, if you're going to just spend the time inside, then you can just have your staycation and it's fine. Why spend the money go somewhere else?
It is true. It is true. I do like me some staycations, not going to lie. Although, you never know. Probably not this year. But I did find out that they're launching a new card show in Las Vegas.
Ooh.
Careful. Do not threaten me with a good time, Vegas. Don't do it.
Is it at the Wynn too? Because that would be.
Oh my God! No, this is the Wynn. If this is the Wynn, it'd be like a cartoon. You'd see a vapor trail. You just see my chair spinning right here. He's like, finish the podcast yourself. Be amazing.
Something like that, right?
Be amazing.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, no. Apparently, they're doing it at a new facility. They've got Vegas has a ton of convention centers. Really, it surprised me they didn't already have more. But apparently, they're starting up a new one. Although it's a new one, they are going to combine it a little bit at first with they're going to do shoes as well because they're welcoming vendors that do shoes as well. And right now, there is a little bit of crossover because you got some of the shoe guys participating in cards. But either way, it's like no, it's an excuse to go to Vegas, man. Apparently, they're going to have 400 tables is what they're shooting for.
Ooh.
Looking at that in October, and I was like, that's not bad. Vegas in October wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, I would think, right?
Yeah, I think not this year, but if they succeed well enough, I could see that being a thing. Listen, man, I just need an excuse. It's not like I really need an excuse, but if you kind of give me an excuse,
Yeah, but it's like we're gonna give you an excuse.
I was like, look, man, I can just picture it. Go to the thing. It's like attend a day at the show, look around, do some stuff, maybe buy some things, maybe not, whatever. Okay, good. Do that during the day. Let's say this is Saturday. Example, Saturday. Great. What if there was a UFC card in the evening?
Ooh.
Make it a double.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Just saying, this could be done in Vegas. You could do that and then go get some late dinner, and and that right there, my friend, is a winner.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet, Carlos.
Such things are
Not
possible.
gonna lie, Carlos.
Some things
Not
are possible.
gonna lie.
That's why I said a moment ago, do not threaten me with a good time, Vegas. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we'll keep it short and sweet today. So Dave, like I said, is back from his pile of sand. He didn't actually leave anywhere. He just went to the pile of sand at the end of the driveway. Took him a long time to dig out.
Could you imagine? I've just spent a week in my driveway digging out of a pile of sand.
Well, it takes a lot of time to dig out of a pile of sand, Dave, and
It
sand
would.
goes in places.
It's true. Oh,
It
yes.
takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to get sand out.
Yes. And sometimes it's one of you find sand. It's like, where the hell did this come from?
Listen, the timeline checks out, Dave. The timeline checks out.
That is a fact.
Yep, exactly. But we will be back next week. We should be back on our more regular schedule. What's going to be interesting as well, like I said, by the next time we get the chance to talk, we will have had the opportunity to see at least a little bit of the NBA Finals. So we'll see what that.
And we will have a Stanley Cup champion no matter what.
Correct. No matter what happens, we will have that. So we'll be able to discuss that. Will Montreal make the greatest comeback in hockey history, or will the Tampa dynasty be renewed again?
Ugh. Fucking Tampa.
I blame all the rest of you hockey people for this. This could have been stopped. You could have stopped this. And now here we are. And yet another Canadian team fails.
I agree.
Should we just, there's like, guys, this Canadian division thing. Can we just move all those Canadian teams? We may as well move them all to Florida then. Let's just be done with it. Forget it. You know what? Canada hockey's canceled. We're moving on. We're going back to lacrosse. We're going back to lacrosse. Ugh. You had your chance. You could have fixed this. You had your chance. We're going back to lacrosse. You're gonna like it, Dave. Lacrosse.
Yeah, no thanks.
All right, so that's gonna be it for me and Dave. We'll keep this one a little bit shorter. We'll be back on episode 104 of the Unnecessary Nonsense podcast. You can catch us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. Like I said, the last one didn't make it up on the audio. However, by the time you listen to this, episode 102 will be up, a little bit delayed. Sorry about that. But episode 103 will come right after, very short order, so at least we'll be semi caught up. So you'll be pretty much right on time. And outside of that, if you are checking it out on YouTube, that is the better preferred venue. You do get some more visuals. Nothing to show you today, today, but usually you will get a couple more visuals, and I'll talk about some card stuff, some wrestling stuff. We'll make fun of things. That's usually how it rolls. And we explain to you why Mike Trout is overrated and trash. We also explain to you why Tom Brady is overrated and trash. We explain to you why both combined are actually beyond squared overrated and trash. There's a lot of complicated math. Y'all need to understand.
It's true.
It's complicated math. But you know who apparently isn't overrated trash? Ohtani. Much to my surprise.
Yes. Not overrated at all.
Yeah.
At least when it comes to hitting.
Also, congratulations, Friday Jr. for being an all-star starter.
Yes. Absolutely.
Those rookie cards are looking good. Looking good, Vladdy. Looking good. Just saying.
So
Anyway.
where are we gonna get to the point where, remember when he was first coming out, like his rookie year, and he was still playing in Buffalo, and we went to the card show, and his rookie cards were there, and they're all selling for like $1,000.
Some of them were, yes. Not all
Okay.
of them, but yes.
No.
I bought a couple at that show. They were not all $1,000.
But
yes.
imagine if that was actually a bargain.
Well, like I said, listen, if you get the performance and you've got the card that has the scarcity and everything, you got to remember, basketball has gone off into its own stratosphere. But there are basketball cards of above average NBA players that are thousands of dollars. If that's true, how come if somebody is potentially chasing down a triple crown, they're 22 years old, they're right up there with the league in batting average, right up there in home runs, right up there in RBIs, all-star starter for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Seems good.
Yep.
Seems reasonable. You know?
Indeed.
So we'll see if that market catches up at some point. Like, I'm sitting on a stack of the damn stuff. So,
Woo-woo.
hey, listen, maybe I'll get to Vegas sooner than I thought. Anyway, so that'll be it for us. We will catch you on the next episode after I count my riches of the Unnecessary Nonsense Podcast.